Welcome back to another episode of Speed Talk with the GM Speedlab. This week we're joined by a special guest joining us from Oklahoma, the 712, Trevor Hughes. Trevor, thanks for taking time to join us tonight, man.
Absolutely. Anytime.
Yeah. Tell us, you raced last week at Heart of Texas Speedway. Give us a little bit of a rundown how your first weekend went with the USMTS tour.
Thursday night we had a brand new car out, changed some things on it a little bit, and could not turn in a 40-acre field.
Well
We got
said.
a creed up for B and won the B, and then was up inside the top 10 and had an electrical issue. Kind of ended our night there, and then second night just didn't get up on the wheel early enough. Had to run another B, barely made it in, and then ended up going 22nd to 7th for hard chargers. So pretty good night for a place that I historically kind of suck at. I spun out more times than a merry-go-round the last time we were there. And Saturday night just kind of got caught up in a bunch of wrecks. No, it's hard to qualify when you're the first one out in the slime. The track changes at least a second within 20 cars. So just not a great weekend Saturday. Happy to be on to the next one.
The next one. That's what it seemed like from on Racing Dirt. It looked like there was definitely slime the first few hot lap sessions, and then as you guys went into qualifying, it still looked like it was a little bit slimy. You could see guys were definitely dragging the tail and brakes trying to get into the corner. A lot of brakes sparking, but no, it looked like you showed good speed. That new car, is it kind of what you expected? Did you make changes from last year? Was it better, worse than you expected, or tell us a little bit about what you I guess not necessarily what you changed, but what were you expecting and how did the car handle for you?
Setup wise, it should have been pretty well identical to my last one. So when we unloaded and couldn't turn, I was pretty shocked at how much just the bodies changed a little bit just to make it, I don't know, get out of the 2010s. So we
New
changed the
body's
body up
definitely
quite a bit.
cool.
Thank you. It turned out good, but just it felt like the car was in the track a lot more. Not necessarily in a good way though. It just could not get it to turn. So had to change up quite a bit of stuff to get it to. But once we got it to turn, it felt very similar to last year's. Just had to start out a lot freer.
Yeah, you were cooking in that B, man. I did watch both nights, and yeah, you showed good speed. Like if anything, yeah, it just looked like you were definitely tight in. I don't know if you went back and watched on Racing Dirt, but you were throwing sparks a mile off of your left rear, trying to drag the tail into the corner. So it looked like it. The first night definitely a little bit of a handful, but as you progressed throughout the night, you definitely got better.
Yeah, it that's pretty well all we did the first night was free it up, free it up, free it up. And by the end of the night, we were actually kind of in the ballpark. But it's hard to, with that many good cars there, it's hard to come up through them when you set yourself back so early.
Yeah. Then
Is
we
that
were
what?
talking the other day. You kind of got caught up in some other people's mess, unfortunately. What did this week consist of trying to get ready for Rocket this weekend?
Complete nose. Most of the front end stuff we had bent. Um, just decking and sail panel, just getting it all hammered back out, getting all the front end parts back in the trailer that we used through the first two nights. Nothing crazy. Didn't find anything bent on the actual car, so just all bolt on stuff.
Don't you love when you spend all that time making your body look all good for the beginning of the year, then you rip the deck out of it on the opening night?
Yeah, that's how it tends to go.
Right. So you're
What
heading
do
to
you
Rocket this week. What are your thoughts on that place?
I really enjoy that place. I know they got some rain yesterday, so it'll probably have some character the first night or two, maybe both nights, but that place can be one of the best places in the country. I'm a big fan of it. I've seen it where it is glass slick top to bottom and never rubbers up.
I
What
think
what what is the size of Rocket? Like what would you compare it to? Like is it similar to a Deer Creek? Is it smaller or what would you compare it to,
It
I guess,
looks like
by
Fountain
us?
City, I feel like, but it looks like it's got
uh,
sweeping corners, but
it's a lot smaller than Fountain City, but it carries a lot of speed. You run quite a bit less gear than Deer Creek, but I feel like Deer Creek's bigger, honestly. Um, it races like a mini Salina, like we'll be going to here in a couple weeks.
Is Salina by far the biggest, fastest track you've been on? I mean, I've never been to that place, but watched races racing dirt, and that place just looks like it is wide open. Hold it to the floor and turn left, and
It's one of
looks
the
like
few
it's gonna make
places you can run around wide open. Um, I'd still say Lakeside feels faster just because you run so much less gear. Your mile per hour is so much higher, but Salina, you can really get up on the wheel and drive one. It races really round once it slicks off, so you can carry a lot of speed.
Okay.
So
The
I want
Lakeside
to.
half mile or
It's a half mile, but I've heard it's one of the smaller ones. I haven't.
smaller one?
It's still the biggest thing I've been on.
All right.
Parker's a
I'm a
big
big
half
half
mile
mile
guy.
guy.
He races at Fairmont weekly. If I don't know if you've ever been up there with your dad or not, but yeah, that's his home track is Fairmont.
I haven't, but I've heard. I've heard it's like last year when everybody showed up. I guess my dad looked at Brandon Davis and said, "What the hell are you doing here? Like, you don't have to be here. Why are you here?" He goes, "I love this place. It's fun.
Yeah,
You're
Sit out
right.
there and hold her
Yeah.
on the floor."
Brandon loves Fairmont. That's like
Yeah.
he's got his stuff pretty well dialed in there. We had him on our podcast here last year, and he has nothing but good things to say about Fairmont. He loves it.
Yeah, so that's
Speaking
what
of
he told
dad,
me.
what's dad up to?
He is thrashing to try to get his stuff together so he can race this weekend. He spent 3 weeks working on a trailer for me to try to get me into a bigger one where I had enough storage to carry parts for myself and customers. He's he's backing down, but not really. He took all his stuff home. He's working out of his house, but he's still busier than ever.
Does he have like kind of a set? I don't want to say skit. Does he have kind of a game plan for the year of how many shows he wants to run, or is he just kind of play it by ear and race when he wants? And
He's just playing it by ear. If he wants to go, he's going to go. If he doesn't, he's going to stay home. He's entered in the 100,000 at Mississippi Thunder, but he's not. Well, he's bringing a car, but he's not driving it. We're still kind of up in the air on who's going to be in it, but the two options we've got going right now are both pretty good. So we just got to get one nailed down.
Awesome.
yeah, that's gonna be another good show I think this year. And you're planning on coming up for that as well,
Yeah.
right?
Yep.
Yeah, that'll be fun. And even if you never raced at Fountain City, oh,
No.
you're in for
Up
a
until
experience.
I think 4 years ago was the first time I'd seen it since it was a tri-oval, way back in the day.
Damn.
It's been a lot of good changes well since 2017 I think was the first year they reconfigured it. But it races so wide. I mean, there's nights you're at times four or five wide at any given time. Just and there's nights the top's really fast, and there's nights where you can run through the middle and bottom and keep up with the guy on the top. It's just it is a racy track. It's fun. It is fun. We're definitely, very lucky to have tracks like MTS, Cedar Lake, and Deer Creek all within like an hour and a half radius of us to go race at because it's just good track service, good people, and awesome competition. So yeah, it'll be fun. Glad you'll be coming up for that one because it's definitely different. Like people either love it or I don't want to say they hate it, but they just say I can't figure this place out because it races so different. It's just it's so wide and fast, and I feel like it really sets. There's a lot of slide jobs. Like if you leave the door open and any corner going into one or three, like be prepared for a guy to come sliding across your nose because it's so wide and so banked. You don't really have to get out of the throttle much.
I feel like turn three more than anything is where I feel like I'm about to get slid almost every time I enter in on the top.
Absolutely. It's like you like roll off of two just right and you hook your entry into three where the car's kind of already turned and you just don't have to get out of the gas and there's so much banking to hold you. You just
It just seems
hold
like
it.
Fountain City, you carry so much corner speed too. Like you were just all the way around that
Yeah.
racetrack. You were just on the gas, hauling ass.
Like if you break momentum, it's just like a
Yeah, I
killer.
was gonna say such a momentum track.
Yeah.
But no,
You're
Trevor, I
gonna
want to
get
ask you, switching sides from the racer now to the chassis manufacturer side of it. What's that kind of been like for you? Kind of stepping into dad's shoes, customer support. I'm sure every night you're always trying new things, trying to, give your customers the best. What's the right way to say it? The best support you can give them, I guess. What's that been like?
Customer support side really hasn't changed. He's really pushed a lot of that towards my direction the last couple of years, probably getting me ready. But running the business has been an eye opener. It's a lot different than I thought it was going to be. There's just so much going on, and it feels like you never have enough time to get everything done. But it's getting easier every day. So we're kind of getting the flow with it now. So
Awesome.
How much help do you have? Like, what do you have? How many like full-time guys do you have? Or how much help do you have like day to day? Whether it's building bodies, bumpers, doing all that stuff. What's a day at Hughes Racing Chassis consist of?
I've got two fabricators, one that builds cars and one that builds parts. We've got one sheet metal guy. He started back in November. I'm kind of in the process of either finding an assembly guy or moving one of the fabricators up there. We just kind of talked about the idea yesterday. So I'm either going to have to hire an assembly guy or another fabricator. We try to keep about four there at the shop. And then I've got my crew guy that goes with me. So there's 5 to 6 of us usually every day there. So
Are you doing
And like day to day, are you like what are you doing day to day? Are you answering a lot of phones, talking to customers? Are you building like what are excuse me, outside of like running the business, what do you do day to day, like within the business?
a little bit of everything. Thankfully, I
What
don't
everything?
have to do the fabrication side as much anymore. I've got two really good guys back there that take care of it. So, but there's days where I'm building bodies, there's days where I'm wiring cars or on the phone way more than I want to be. Most days I'm on the phone ordering parts, shipping stuff, the assembly side as well. We build all our shocks in house. Unfortunately, I know how to do it, so that's my job too.
Doing a lot of shock work.
Always, it seems like you can never get caught up with all of it. It's either you can get all the shocks done, but then you got to be, oh well, I got to go ship out 2 days worth of orders because I've been over in the other shop. So
what kind of shocks do you guys run on your Hughes cars?
we're all on Penske stuff now. We're direct with them, so have been about 4, I guess, going on 5 years now. They've been awesome to work with, and they take care of us. So
I
Correct me
remember,
if I'm wrong. Did your dad take one of his cars down to Penske and do a bunch of testing, like dynamic testing, where they put the car on the scales, different shot? Like, I feel like I saw a picture several years ago. It was one of the first. It's one of the first cars your dad went to like a full big size sail panel, and you
that,
got really into the aero and kind of changing stuff up on the car. Was that around that time you
yeah, that was
joined with Penske?
2023. We took one out there. We drove, yeah, I think it's like a 14-hour drive. We drove one out there and put it on a pull down rig and picked up a bunch of stuff for the shop too. So that was good. We learned more what not to do than what to do.
Yeah. So what's it like? I mean, what kind of information did you pull off of that pull down rig that you maybe didn't know? Like, how am I trying to say this? Like putting a car at dynamic and being able to physically pull the force into the car to each wheel load based or or different than how am I trying to say this? Different than just statically scaling a race car. Like we could pull the axles, take the shocks off outside of the right rear, coil over. What more do you see on a pull down rig than just statically setting a car up?
You're going to see wheel loads and that's really all you're seeing is wheel loads and what basically each rod does relative to it. And some of that stuff was backwards from what we thought. One of the biggest things we learned was don't let the left rear hit the underslung. It unloads the right rear. So it's no worse or it's no better than hanging on the rod or something other than the chain. So that was one of the biggest things because going back 2015, King of America was one hitting a block on the underslung. We just didn't know any better. So it's crazy how much stuff has changed and how little the lap times have. But I don't know. The underslung thing was huge because a couple of years ago, mine was just beating the underslung through, and I was tight, and I couldn't figure out why. Well, it was completely loading the left rear and not the right rear.
You just had way too much drive in the car where it just
Yeah,
wasn't one to turn at all.
Yeah.
So now you're talking about, you said lap times haven't really gotten that much faster. We just had Devin Moran on here last week. We asked him kind of the same thing with late models. So in the last 10 years, lap times haven't really gotten that much faster in modifieds and late models, whatever it is, but racing has advanced so much. What, how am I trying to say this? Are the race cars really getting, is racing really getting faster? Are we carrying more speed, or are we overthinking it and does racing need to go back 10 years? I don't know. Just what are your thoughts on that? Lap times aren't really getting any faster, but racing's changed so much, technology's advanced so much. Where is racing getting better, would you say?
I just think we're carrying so much more speed through the corners, but there's still a chip rule on the motors. We're still on, I don't want to say a junk tire, but the tire's got a lot of plastic in it. We're limited to the chip rules that they have and the tire that we're provided. I feel like the tire 10, 15 years ago was probably a little better. We could go forward a little bit better, but we sacrificed a lot in the corners. So I just feel like we've taken from the straightaway speed and given to the middle of the corner speed, which kind of hard to pass somebody down the straightaway. So if you can beat them through into the corner and carry that speed, you're going to be better off.
The biggest thing I'd say that I've noticed is like I go back and I watch the old Dirt Nights TV show on YouTube
2010.
every single summer. Ryan Gustin in a Hughes car was kicking everyone's ass in like 2009, 2000, whenever it was. And you watch all those cars,
2010.
2010. They come into the corner like this, the left rear sets, they skate, they hike up, and they take off. Where nowadays, everybody is, the ass is up all the way through the corner, the left rear's dropped out a mile. It's just this, like you said, the how we corner is so much different now than it was maybe even 5 years ago. I'm just curious to see, 5 years from now, will the new thing be that we're all chained down on the left rear and we run no drop, and it's just crazy to think where racing's going. I don't know. But
I I don't see us taking chain out. I mean, you got people like the fastest guys in the country look like they've got 18 inches of drop. The
right,
the Brandon Davises, the Jim Chisholms, the Jake
yeah,
Tims, they're all.
right.
It
And I'm
just
not
seems like that's the direction it's going.
right, and I'm not saying that's necessarily the direction we're going. I'm just
Mhm.
saying you look at where racing was 10 years ago, the cars were flat. They slid the ass into the corner. It's just like where's racing going to be another 10 years from now? What are the race cars going to look like then? It's just it's advancing
Airplanes.
so fast. It's hard to keep up with it every year.
Airplanes.
Airplanes. They're gonna have
Uh,
giant wings on them and keep them down on the track somehow.
Arrows are gonna be huge.
Arrow's gonna be huge.
Trevor, I got a question for you.
Yeah.
I'm no mod guy, so I don't really know too much about mods. But one topic that I've been super curious with these last couple of years since I switched over to USRI full time, been able to run American Racer tires. What are you doing, or have you found any luck with your tires? Are you grooving them a certain way? Are you running them one night with just sipes in them? What have you found that you've had luck with? Because every time I see a picture on Facebook, I'm always scrolling in on a tire just to see how they groove it or do something a different way. But I'm just kind of curious on what you guys do.
I cut mine up pretty good. Um, there's not, I think you're working off the edges a lot more. So my thought process is the more edges, the better. Um, also lets a little bit of heat out, but I really don't think, I think we overthink the tires a lot.
A lot, yeah.
There's only so much you can do to it.
Yep.
You gotta groove it some. I'm sure most of us spend way too much time jacking with them for what we're
I
actually.
went to an RTI tech school a couple weeks ago, and there was like three guys on the expert panel that said that they're pretty old school. One of them was Mike Nichols. He was a 13-time IMCA national champion of stock cars, and he super old school, goes back way back to, I just sipe them, he says, and just run them the way that they come from, American Racer, and just sipe them the way that they come. So I'm just curious to see what other people do, if they found any luck. He was stating that, more surface area to the track, the better, rather than cutting them up the way some people do. But just curious.
You're obviously not soaking your tires enough. Sipes.
You sound like you're speaking from experience there, Zach.
Sipes and
Do you know
grooves, he
anything about
says.
that?
Yeah.
No simple green.
No, simple green.
Engine degreaser.
Yeah.
I
Dawn
just
dish soap. If it's good for the ducks, it's good for my tires.
right. I just cut them till I hit cords, and I bumped the Van Alstyne up about a
Oh.
quarter inch.
Slide the groove up a little bit.
Oh, shit. Loosen it up.
I still remember a couple of years ago when like I bought 4 tires all year. I'm like, you know what? I can't afford this shit. They're $186 or whatever they were. I remember I had the Van Alstyne too deep, and I was going off the sidewall, hit the sidewall, wrecked a brand new tire. She started leaking, and I was just like,
Oh no.
holy shit. Wrecked a brand new tire. Never do that again.
Do that.
No, that hurts.
That hurt. Dad was not thrilled.
Oh, I bet Troy was pissed.
I think Dad actually tried to put a patch in it.
That's some old
Just a-
school shit there.
That's old school. Yeah, put a patch in it, but
Speaking of old school, we got to bring up that rap at some point.
Oh yeah.
oh yeah,
That sucker is
that is
sweet.
sharp. That
That
is
thing
sharp.
is so cool. And it
Yeah,
looks
talk a
exactly
little
like
bit about that rap, Trevor, for people that might not know the whole scheme, everything that dealt with that whole rap scheme.
That was Dad's rap from 2015. I liked it at the time. And now looking back and seeing all the blue and yellow, it really stands out. Just that blue and green was something different. I really like it. It was 2015 when he won the King of America. He swept the Jamboree with it. So figured being the 10-year anniversary of it and being my first year racing USMTS and him backing off a lot is kind of just seemed like a cool one to do. And it was one that I liked and didn't necessarily have to see a ton of yellow all year.
Right.
the famous Jamboree race.
Famous Jamboree race. I think every Brandon,
August,
you talk about
September.
Brandon, yeah, it comes up about every August he sees
Oh,
it. He sees
Brandon
the
just hates
replay.
talking about that race.
Oh, I would imagine so. He had her one and just knocked her right
And
front
he
off.
and he wheeled his ass off too. Like if
To
you
get
watch
there.
it, he just waited and waited until he finally got a gap in turn two. He finally got it, and then
I'm pretty sure he still has yet to win a Jamboree race, hasn't he?
He's never won one.
I
Yeah.
thought he won one this year.
No, he won a
He
USMTS
got
race,
second.
but I don't think he's won a night
Won
of the
the
Jamboree.
Yes, the late Memorial Day, I think, race.
oh,
Okay.
oh yeah, that's what it was. Yeah. I was gonna say he's won 10 grand at Deer Creek before
Mm-hmm.
in a USMTS race.
I remember just when they interviewed your dad after that show, he watched.
Hughes had to say following the main event.
That was one hell of a race. That's probably the most fun I've had in a race car. I mean, everybody's running hard and right against the wall and coming back across the racetrack. And we rubbed a few times with, I think everybody was rubbing the wall, and it was one of the best races. So I sat there in fourth a long time and got to watch them. And, I didn't want to be involved in that race just yet. So
The sliders with Duval and Brandon, and then he just kind of like stayed back, and then before you know it, the classic used car lift bar right through the center, right in the black, just lap after lap after lap. There's Jason takes the lead. It's like, but that was a hell of a year to come in and say they swept the modified portion of the fall, regardless if it's B mod or mod, to sweep the modified portion of the fall jamboree is like that's a prestigious event. Like it might not be the most high paying show, but it's prestigious. Like people from all over come to race that event because it's the fall jamboree. I mean,
Yes.
that's that like probably holds the. Would you say that does that hold the candle out of any of his wins, or does he have one that like really sticks out outside of the jamboree? Would you say?
I would have to think that would be it. I mean, he's won all kinds of stuff. He's won at Volusia. He's won the Jamboree. He's won that was it Dirt Modified World Championship at Deer Creek.
Your creative. Yep.
He won a 20,000 at Arrowhead a couple years ago, and then a 20 grand in California years ago. But I have to think that's got to be up there.
That's a tough thing to do with
Yeah.
that field of cars 3 nights in a row.
You got to have a lot of luck go your way too.
Oh yeah.
A lot of luck, yeah. And
Was
that's
that-
when they did the victory lane in like the hospitality area where they did the stage. And I remember him getting out.
Oh,
And he
that-
was
I think
so-
that was further. I think that was a while back
Was that a while? Was it?
because in
I
that,
think he was still in the infield that year.
Was it still?
yeah.
I could be
but
wrong.
on dirt nights, I'm pretty sure if that's what you're thinking of, they still
I
had
went
it up.
back 5 years too far. That's my
I
bad.
don't know.
Hey,
Is
speaking
that the
of,
year? Hang on.
oh,
Well, I was just gonna ask if that's not the year that him and Cade went into the Jamboree pretty tight for points, was it? I think it was like a year or
No,
two after.
I think that was 17.
Because there was a year that Jason and Cade were like pretty close going into the final night, and I think all Jason had to do was,
It came down to one
damn,
spot. Cade's whoever was driving Cade's backup car
oh yeah,
lost a certain spot, and that
that's right.
propelled
Yeah,
Jason to
because
win the
the
points
other
championship.
97 was
I think
up front.
15 was Rodney. I
yeah.
think he pretty well
Oh,
had to come in and win to win the championship that year.
gotcha.
Full season's worth of racing had come down to the final event for both Jason Hughes and Rodney Sanders. Each driver drew into the same heat race tonight for the opening night of the 17th annual Featherlight Fall Jamboree here at Deer Creek Speedway. Jason Hughes was the better car on that one, and he led to the field to the green flag from the outside pole for the 40-lap 5,000 to win main event. By winning the race, Jason Hughes also secured his second USMTS National Touring Championship. Let's hear what Jason had to say in Victory Lane.
Tonight was, like you said, the topping on the cake. We had a really good race car all night long. Got through the heat race without getting tore up, and that's a key to this deal. When you got this many race cars, to get a good starting spot, and we made the draw, got the start front roll out, and just kept our nose clean.
You obviously knew it would be important to jump out of the lead early when you were right there and it'd be for the taking.
Yeah, I wanted to be out front. You get a point for leading a lap, and you get 2 points for leading the most laps, and you never know what it's going to come down to. I mean, it was 4 points going into the night, so it was tight.
What's your dad won? How many national titles he won? 7? 5?
4.
4?
Yep.
Kelly's 9, right? Kelly's won 9.
Yeah.
And Rodney's got 5.
Rodney's got 5. Your dad's
I got
got
5.
4. Yep. And does Ryan have 3? Gustin?
I think he's only got two.
I think 2.
2.
He was around. He
11
was
and 12.
winning. He won those like Casey's Cup when it was like the Casey's
hunt.
Cup. Yeah,
The
the
hunt.
hunt.
Hunt, yes,
Hunt.
the hunt.
Yeah.
The hunt for the Casey's Cup. Yeah, we need to bring that back.
Need to bring
Hey,
back Casey's.
I heard you say something of Volusia. I just want to shout this one out here. Hughes Racing Chassis. Gene Nicholas got a win down Volusia this year. Saw that was pretty cool.
I was tickled for him. That was his first ever win, period.
I know it was. That was
Really?
awesome.
He had never won prior to that,
No.
and then to
No,
win
he
at
never won.
Volusia. That's
Won a
pretty-
gator.
That's a
That's pretty
pretty
cool.
good one to win for your first time.
right? Oh man, yeah. I don't know if I've ever talked to him, but I've seen him at shows, and he runs okay. But then I saw that replay, and he held his own. I mean, he really put a whooping on him that night.
Oh, he looked like a pro. I mean, Sorensen ran third that night, so there was
Yeah.
no slouch in that feature.
No
Right.
slouch in that, exactly. So
Yeah.
that's awesome. But what else was I gonna ask you? Oh, for people so Trevor, give us a little like background on how you got your start in racing. Obviously, most people know about your dad, his career, but where did you start? Like from a young age, like who is Trevor Hughes outside of where you're at now? Like how did you cut your teeth?
I raced a junior sprint in '04. Got a concussion. Was hit or miss, either one or just was scared. And we didn't race after that. I pretty well didn't get in a car again until 2021. I came back to work for my dad. I'd been working on dirt bike suspension, and yeah, I told him I wanted to come back with the intention of running the business. And he said, "Well, do you want to race?" Absolutely. I didn't know anything about house cars at the time, so I thought if you don't know how to race, then you're not going to make it go. So I was going to figure it out, I guess. And he was all about it. I mean, the last time I was in a car before that would have been when I was up at your place in your go-kart right after you moved to slingshots.
Oh my God. Should have been like 2008
8?
or 9. Yeah, that
I
summer.
clobbered you.
Yep. I wondered if you were going to remember that. I just remember your dad ripping your ass for it too.
Yeah. That was so funny until we talked about that. I know you come up and you stayed for like 2 weeks, and we picked you up from Deer Creek. It was Cheeks and your dad, and you were on the road with them. And then you came and stayed with us for like 2 weeks, and I didn't realize until you brought this back up You said your phone died and your mom had no idea where you were at.
Oh yeah, she was
And
pissed.
then
She was like, "You're." She was more mad at my dad, I think, because he was like, "You're dropping them off with someone I don't know for 2 weeks." Ah,
Just
they're
left
fine.
him
We
in
raced.
Minnesota.
they're fine. They'll bring him back to Cresco in 2 weeks.
Yeah.
It's all good. That was fun. We did some crawfishing. We were riding BMX bikes. We put you in a go-kart, race go-kart.
Yeah.
Was that your first time racing a flat cart?
Oh yeah. Yeah. You spun out leading the heat race. Then we got rained out.
I got right now.
Trevor,
Yeah.
as I get older, I'm getting a little bit better about that spinning out thing. I've had about a 16-year stretch of that, but
I feel you.
I'm getting better. I kept her to I think I might have kept her to one last year, so we're getting
First
better.
night out, I remember you were wheeling up a mile, and Jack just just throw it in the corner harder. It's got to turn one way or the other.
It's gonna stick.
It's gotta
Well, we had a stretch. I got a GRT this year from a guy, and we had like a 3 race stretch where we literally could not get that thing off the right rear. And I mean, like, no exaggeration, left front, like 2, 3 feet in the air, couldn't even see the racetrack. Like, I'm just looking at the stars. Horrible. And then we had Brandon Davis put a right front shock on that thing, and she was tied down.
Yeah, absolutely.
Won the first night in it. But
PD50.
yeah, speaking of, you talked about Cheeks. Take us through a little bit of the history of Steve Carver, how he got tied in with Jason Hughes. Um, Stevie's obviously from up here in Leroy, Minnesota. Grew up with my dad, or I shouldn't say grew up with my dad. He's a lot younger than my dad, but kind of grew up working with my dad in his shop on his race car. What was kind of the connection there with Jason? How did he get tied in there?
I'm not 100% sure from what I understand. Just he was around the races a bunch, obviously with your dad, I'm sure, and then just kept going as a fan. And I don't know if they just got to talking, and my dad said, "Hey, do you want to come out on the road?" or what exactly happened, but that would have been '05, '06, somewhere in there. And he was with him up until a couple of years ago. I mean, he had a year or two off here and there, but for the most part, they were together for
A long time.
over 300 feature wins between them. I do
Holy
know
shit!
that.
I had no idea it was that many. I figured it was over 100. I didn't know it was that many.
Those weren't all USMTS shows, but they were all pretty good shows for the most part. He's got to be up there with the Mike Harrisons, like the 500-600 win club, but I don't. He never kept track, and he regrets that. He's told me that I need to keep track a lot better than he did. So
Yeah.
That's a good issue to have.
It's pretty easy to keep
Well,
track
think
for
of,
our
like-
wins here, boys.
Yeah.
Think of Shane Sabraski. I think did he crack like 700 wins this last year? Are you
Wouldn't be
familiar with Shane
surprised.
Sabraski, Trevor?
Oh yeah.
He's
Yeah,
from
but if
our
you
way.
don't you think if you put Jason Hughes in like a Midwest one, a super stock and a modified every night or like
Wins
most
racing.
nights,
3
that he
nights a
would
week.
He used to run 3 cars a night, like in the 80s and 90s. So I'm sure that he's got to be up there because he'd win multiple features a night, and then just in the mod since '05, 300 plus. You got to think he's raced 20 years before that, running
Right.
3 cars. So
And at one point, your dad ran open late model, right? Like he didn't race much mod, or did he have a modified? So he must have still had a mod or something. But I remember I think it was a black car with like a blue and yellow
Mhm.
rack.
2015, my brother designed his race car, his first dirt doer off of that late model, right?
Oh, really?
The blue and
Oh,
yellow car.
your dad's been my favorite modified driver forever. He always will be. I don't know on top of it. I got a million of his freaking t-shirts, and I laughed the first year second year I was racing my way into a USMTS feature, and your dad tagged me in the rear, and Todd's no fault rule. Who went to the back, right? I did. So I got,
Really?
like, ninth
I
in
didn't know
this
Todd knew what a
meeting.
no fault rule was. I
Yeah,
thought we'd
no fault rule, exactly.
Dude, I remember Jason and Brandon Dolman duking it out in a heat race at Deer Creek one time, and I don't remember what happened, but they sent Jason to the back, and I remember the 12 car whipping a shitty on the front stretch and looking right at Ryan Saley, and I just saw fingers out of the
Out of the window.
window net. Next thing I know, I'm pretty sure the 12 is loaded up and gone.
out of there.
That sounds like him.
Another one of my favorites is your dad and Darren Fuquay at West Union about 4 years ago.
Oh my
I
God.
don't know if
Yes.
you were on the tour with him.
I think I would have been.
Fuquay drove him off the track coming off of two,
And they both
Yes.
in a heat
and
race.
oh, they were going at it on the racetrack, I remember.
Yeah. No, Dad had that one coming.
Oh, did he?
Speaking of Steve-O, we were standing we were like directly behind turn 2, back off in the corner. And when if you go put him off the back straightaway, Steve-O's going, "That's right. That's what you fucking deserved." Like he was ripping my dad a new one because I think he chopped him on the start or something, but he would always
He
call it
was
how he
on
saw it.
Steve Cheeks was on
Oh, yeah.
Fuquay's side.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, he's like, you fucked him on that? Like, you got
Yep,
that
yep.
coming
You had
for
that
you?
one coming.
Stevie calls a spade a spade.
Yes,
Yeah.
he will.
I remember too, there was a night at Rock Rapids where your dad and TP got into it.
Oh,
with your
God
dad.
dang. I was
You
in the
probably
infield.
remember watching this. It was after the races. I don't know if Rodney, I don't know who won the feature, but I know the race center had the camera on them two going at it off of turn 2, like just fucking running into each other. And I'm like, two of the best in the modified world are beating the shit out of their cars right now because they're out of each other. And then they raced the next night and they were just fine. But it's
Oh,
like,
you should have seen him in the pits afterwards.
oh, they just
Oh, yelling,
straight at
throwing
each other.
shit. I think TP threw a questionable slider and wiped the nose off, and Dad just blasted him after the checkers, and they're hitting each other, and they knocked Dad off the end, and he's like straight up T-boned with TP there, and he told me, he said, "I'd have flipped him if I'd have got any traction."
It was so rough. Yeah, the Rock Rapids got all that rain. And I think that was the year he had the white and the blue and then the fluorescent red number.
Yeah,
And
that was my first year racing.
that okay, so that would have been 2021 then, right? Because
Yep.
you were racing his backup car.
No, my car was his backup. He only had one.
Oh,
And in the pits, him and TP are yelling at each other. We'll junk race cars. I got more at the shop. I'll build them. Meanwhile, mine's the spare. And turns out I'm buddies with Hayden Richards, who was working for him at the time. And he's like, "Terry, shut up. We have one car." They were both bluffing out their ass.
Was that the engine in your first modified, Trevor? Was that the one that had got flooded and you took it apart, rebuilt? What was
No,
the
didn't
story?
rebuild it. Drain the water.
Oh, you just drained the water out of it.
Yeah. Drain the water,
What?
put some oil in the cylinders, turned it over, and it was fine.
And it was fine. You just ran it. Because I remember
Yep, ran it all year.
we were talking. I remember talking because you were like, yeah, like that car was on a pull bar, right? Like you liked the pull bar and
Yeah.
your dad liked the lift bar. And I remember
Yep.
you telling me, yeah, this engine was one that it was. Thought you said it was flooded and you had to drain the water out of it, like
Yep.
you just said. And I'm like, what a story. So how the hell did it get flooded? Was it one you guys had and had
That
storms,
was-
or did you? What's the story on that?
That was my dad's father-in-law, which sounds weird, but it's my stepmom's dad. And it was in a building that the roof caved in on, and all the duct tape that was on the exhaust ports had curled up and turned into funnels and just funneled water into it. Their cylinders were all full. We drained like probably 20, 40 ounces out of the oil pan on top of all that. It shouldn't have ran.
I was gonna say, you
Actually
guys just
ran
said,
it.
screw it, run it.
Well, if you knew Donald Cates, he just said, "Man, fire it up. If it breaks a ring, you'll know pretty quick." Okay. We actually ran it that year, freshened it, ran it the following year, freshened it again, and then that was the one did we freshen it another time? That was one of the ones I blew up at Rocket to start the year last year. Like we still had it.
Damn.
Are you guys
did some
still
like
run
that.
Chad Mullen stuff?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
Trevor, do you run like the bigger cube stuff, or do you like some of that small? What do you prefer? Do you still run like the 400, 415, or do you run some of that 360, 374?
So
small cube stuff?
the one in my car right now is a 415. The one I ended the year with was a 370. Honestly, I can't tell a huge difference. I haven't back to back them, but I think whatever somebody has is probably going to be fine. They're not worlds different. I think the chip roll really kind of evens it out pretty good. The 415 may be a little better for qualifying, but late in the night, I don't think you can tell.
I think unless you're, like you said, doing it back to back, it probably is hard to tell because the only time I've ever really noticed was the night that Parker, you and I at practice or something. We must have swapped
We
cars.
swapped,
But I
yeah.
got in yours like right after getting to mine, and
Yeah,
and
because you guys
Parker
were
had
like,
a
"Oh my
pretty
God, this
good.
had so much power," and then yours
Yeah,
was like way more drivable, just because it's just I don't know how to explain it.
I
yeah,
think they
because
closing the
go ahead.
chip too made a big difference. It was 78 and 84, and now it's 8 and 84. Closing
Hmm.
that 200 RPMs is quite a bit.
Yeah, that's a good point. But no, that's the only time I've ever really been like, oh, I can definitely tell a little bit of a difference, and I think it was just mainly on exit. I think I just in general would get too antsy with my foot probably and light that thing up, but I think I liked mine. I like my small cube stuff. Just feels drivable for me, I guess, but
Mhm.
like yeah, like you said, whatever anyone's got will work. And I mean, it's all feel, it's all personal preference, really, for the
So now
most
we're
part.
kind of talking rules there. I guess a question I've got for you, Trevor. Um, is there a rule change or something that could be implemented into USMTS modifieds that could maybe better the racing or better? Is there a rule that needs to be put in place, or is there a rule that needs to be taken out in your mind? Is there anything that could be done better to make modified racing better?
We might go down a rabbit hole here.
That's okay.
Honestly, I feel like there's too many rules. Anytime somebody starts to figure something out, whether it's Cade with the over indexing shit, whether it's there was talk of a droop rule a couple years ago, the front ride height rule. I thought we were open, thought we were outlaw modifieds, but it seems like they're really trying to rein it in. And you hear, well, from some of the officials, well, if you want to go just run open class, go run late model. Well, it's
Not
not.
everybody can afford to run late model.
Yeah, yeah, but and that's what's taken a lot of the fun out of it for my dad. He's like, I can't create anything anymore. I can't come up with new ideas. Anytime I bring something new out, oh, can't run that.
Takes the
So
creativity out of it.
yes,
Mhm.
yeah, and Brandon
It's
Davis
definitely gotten
thing. So
Yeah, definitely gotten worse these last couple of years. I've noticed,
oh yeah,
especially. I mean, not even in the mods too. I mean, even in like B mods and hobby stocks, Jack. When somebody starts to figure something out,
yeah,
I saw it a lot in IMCA a couple of years ago. We were staggering rear springs, and then they're like, "Oh, you can't stagger rear springs anymore. They got to be straight across in the rears." But that's just, I mean, just an example, not a mod stuff, but it's just
Why
once
can't a,
somebody
why
starts to
can't a
figure
hobby
something out.
stock? Why can't a hobby stock if he can fit a 20-inch left rear spring in his car? Why can't he run it?
yeah, that makes no sense to me.
And if
And
you can
Yeah,
and
get
the
a J
whole
bar in there,
yeah, right.
preloading,
Yeah, no,
Yeah.
no, you can't.
like on the BMOD side, you can't preload the right front with the shock. Why not? Why does it matter on
Everyone
something?
can do it. Right.
That's the
Yeah,
thing, yeah. If you okay,
it's
so
not
you're gonna
hard
preload
on
the
equipment.
you're gonna preload the spring regardless. So if you set a ride height rule, if it's got to be 7.5, like if you even if it's preloaded in, if you're making it if your frame's at 7.5, let it
Why
be.
does it matter?
But it's like, why does it matter?
Yep.
We had
I don't.
my dad
There's
and I. We actually had this conversation with Darlo at the scales at Deer Creek. I think it was last year. Got talking about. I don't even remember what the rule was. But Darlow's explanation for it was, well, basically we were kind of talking about, every time a guy gets fast, every time a guy finds speed, instead of letting the field catch up, we have to
They try to
dumb it
bring it.
down and we have to make it fit. We have to bring him back down to everyone. It's like that year when, Jake O'Neill was kicking everyone's ass when he had that goofy Z-Link shit or whatever he was doing. Then it was like something got outlawed here. And then it was like, you know, Jake Tim was kicking ass a couple years ago. They changed the rule for him. And then there's gonna be a rule for the Chisholm boys at some point. They keep kicking ass. There'll be something. There's always something to dumb it down. I don't want to say dumb it down, but instead of letting my whole thought process is at some point people are always gonna catch up. I don't care. It might take them a year, it might take them 2 years, but people are always gonna figure out what guys are doing, and then someone finds something new. And it's like that's what keeps racing fun. And it just seems like they almost penalize guys for being fast. That's almost how it seems sometimes when somebody finds a little extra speed, it's like they got to penalize them and bring them back down to everybody else's level.
And it's not necessarily
Absolutely.
like, well, go ahead, Trevor. Yep.
No, I was gonna say they do. Like nobody, you do get penalized for being fast. You figure something out. You work harder than somebody else, and they try to take it away from you. You
Right.
can't. They keep making the box smaller. Anytime you figure something out, oh well, we got to take that corner of the box out. there should be no reason why we can't preload the right front spring with the shock. There should be no reason that if a B mod rolls through tech and the left rear is bottomed out, that doesn't do anything.
That's a perfect example.
Correct.
That is
Exactly.
the biggest pain in the
summary.
ass with the B mods.
We fought that all last
Pay
year.
attention. It's the dumbest rule. It does absolutely nothing. It's
Right.
not hurting your equipment. All it does is, okay, I don't want to run 300 pounds of extended load. I'd rather run 200. Well, can't do that because it's going to sit on the shock.
Mhm.
It doesn't do any good. All it does is make extra work when they're trying to save work.
Right.
If anything,
I kind of
let
look
it get a
back.
stop for a 39-inch deck roll right there. Let the shock be bottomed out, and so
Yes.
the deck is always at 39. Like I don't see what else, because what performance? The minute you even slightly pick up the gas or turn left, it's coming off of that anyways. It's no performance advantage whatsoever. So the fact that it rolls and they put that stupid tool into your right front to see if your left rear bottoms out, and if your right front shock comes up out, it's like.
What's
Why?
it matter?
It's
Anytime
traveling
you're
it's traveling the opposite when you're out on the track racing.
Yes.
It's doing the exact opposite.
If
That's
your right
going
front
down,
tops
this
out and your
side's
left
going
rear
up.
bottoms out, you've got problems.
Exactly.
You're probably
Correct.
pointed at the fence.
You're probably pointing at the fence and about to go over once your left rear wheel rolls under the bead.
Yeah, at which point it don't matter if your shock's
don't
popped
matter.
out or not, because it's going to be like this by the time you get done flipping.
Exactly.
going over the fence, not fun.
Yeah.
Jack, I kind of look back a couple years ago at the Jamboree. It was when your dad pulled the old Skyrocket out. And, we're talking about, gray areas a little bit in the rules there. But I can't remember what happened with, was it the dented right front frame rail or something like
It's
that?
so-
That Darlow
Three
was not
holes.
going to let him race.
My dad, Trevor, drives a 2005 Skyrocket we bought from Greg Jensen in 2019 out back in the weeds. I raced it for a couple years. We bought it cheap. And Dad made it into he was racing as a B mod when I got my car. Dad came out of retirement. He's been driving this thing for like 4 or 5 years now. Thing is bent. Dad's ripped the X out of the car, welded it back together. Bent old race cars. Probably got 1,500 races on it. Darlow told my dad, sorry, Darlow, I'm kind of knocking you, but whatever. Darlow told my dad at the fall jamboree last year, Thursday, we're going through pre-tech, that my dad's right front ride height was too low?
It's too high.
yeah.
Too high, yeah, it was too high. It had too much clearance. Darlow said my dad had to cut it and Dad's like, I'm not gonna do that. He's like, I'm not gonna take the saws out of my car, bend it down. He's like, it's a 20-year-old race car. I'm not here to win races. I'm not gonna beat these brand new Hughes cars and Skyrockets and J2s. He's like, I'm gonna come here and race with my kids, have some fun. And Darlow's like, if you roll across my scale without changing this, you're DQ'd. And Dad's like, fuck you. He's like, he went to Todd Staley. And like I said, I'm not trying to bash USRA or Darlow or USMTS, but my dad went to Todd Staley. He's like, I'm not trying to be that guy, but I want my money back. He's like, I'm not dealing with this bullshit anymore. He's like, I come here to have fun. Ultimately, any way you look at this, we all race just to have fun, whether we're racing for $100,000 or $300. It's just something we do for fun. And Dad was just pissed. He's like, I'm not buying into this bullshit. And he didn't. Dad, if you know
loaded it up
my dad is as
And Todd was
stubborn
pissed
and-
about.
yeah.
Todd was not happy. I heard with.
No, because he
Darlow.
lost a car out of the pits.
correct. He
Yeah.
was, and as soon as my dad walked in, I don't remember if it was Ryan or it was Todd, and he was just like, figures, like, not surprised. It's like, okay, you know what the issue is, but who wants again, Darlow?
I will say Darlow.
who
I
wants
will
to do
say
your job?
Darlow's fair. Darlow's fair with.
Correct.
He doesn't have favorites. Like if
That's
you're,
true.
if you're in the gray area, or he'll just DQ you. Like I don't think he has favorites truly. But
Corbin,
Just
what
need
did your
to
dad get DQ'd for in 2018? Your dad got third, and he got
Oh,
DQ'd.
so you can have aluminum suspension. So you had aluminum shock heim on it. We broke a right front shock, busted the shock shaft, and we just threw a shock on we had in the trailer. Well, we didn't have a heim for one. Put an aluminum heim on it, got DQ'd. Didn't make a shit ton of difference. It's 1 ounce difference.
And it was
And
like his dad's
that's-
first top three in like what, 4 or 5 years?
Oh, that'd been like 2017. So yeah, by about 5 years. And
DQs him.
it DQ'd me for no reason. I mean,
over
it did make a
over an
performance
aluminum
difference.
shock.
On the left front.
Left.
On the
Was it
left
on the
front.
left front or left
Cheaper
rear?
than the steel one anyway.
Left front.
Correct.
Yeah.
Left front shock.
And that's Okay, so if we're going,
That's
you
the
said we're going to go
problem.
down the rabbit hole here, but we want to go down the rabbit
We're
hole.
digging. We're going deep. We
But
just
you talk
entered.
about
We're
cheaper.
working its
Here's
way
the
down.
thing that from a, I don't want to play the, like Turbo says, no race car drivers broke, but from a budget race car driver, an average race car driver, they make all these rule changes. It was like in 2018, they made all the B mods go to a stock lower. Why we had to do that? All it did was cost every B mod driver a bunch of money. You were
To
supposed
switch them,
correct,
and they bend if you look at them wrong.
correct.
They make
I
me money because I have to sell them all the time. Because if you
correct.
sneeze at them, they bend.
Right,
That's
but
a joke.
the whole thing is it didn't impact the racing. All it did was it took every single Be My driver that races Friday and Saturday that has to go by, you know, a right front, a left front, a spare, and a spare. My dad, I remember, was so mad. He called Darlo and was just pissed. He's like, I just had to spend whatever $1,500 for
Oh yeah.
absolutely no reason. You know, we do this sport for fun, and you're creating stupid rules that don't impact the racing, but yet they cost us money. What's the point in that? But yeah, I went down the rabbit hole.
Legalize loose trailing arm bolts.
Yeah,
Yes.
Yeah.
yeah, great.
Hopefully someday I'm good enough to the point where they're making rules to pull me back into the box or whatever you call that.
Not me.
Yeah, not me
But
either. Sorry.
anyways, yeah, kind of went down the rabbit hole there, but I just
And
think I just think sometimes there's not a lot of common sense in some of the decisions that are made when it comes to making rules, and all it does is create extra work for the racers and cost racers money. That's what's frustrating.
and I will give Darlow credit where it's due. He let us run aluminum shock ends, I think 2 or 3 years ago. We started being able to run the Heims, and then this past year they let us run aluminum body caps because they're cheaper. But that's the first time I've seen it.
Right.
Every other time before, it just cost the racer money. So who knows? Maybe we're going down the right path now, but I kind of doubt it.
Right.
On a positive note, Trevor, what's the most fun since you've been in an open wheel modified? What's the most fun you've had? What sticks out? Like best memory so far to date?
Passing my dad at Arrowhead last year, like just straight up start way in the back because there was no passing in the heat race, barely make the show out of the heat. I think we started like 18th, and just I drove right by him, and that was a cool feeling. I was like, okay, I might actually be able to do this at some point. So
Is that the weekend he won two of them?
no, that was the weekend. Dillard was down there in Chad Wheeler's car.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, no,
Was
that
that
was
last that oh that was 2 years ago then?
no, that was last year. 2 years
Last
ago
year.
was when he won two of them.
Okay, yeah, that's what I was thinking of. Yep.
So speaking of Dillard, Trevor, I got a maybe I don't know if it's a chassis builder question, but obviously if everyone knew the answer to this, they'd all be doing it. But what do you think Cade's doing so much better than everyone else? I mean, obviously no one knows exactly, but he is so dominant in that modified. I mean, I don't think he's every time he shows up, he wins. I mean, he's beaten. It's not like he's beaten nobodies. He's beaten Jim Chisholm and Jake Tim, these guys who are at the top of the game. Like, what do you think Cade's cars are, or Cade's doing better than everyone else?
Oh, his
Rabbit
stuff's
hole.
good for sure. Um, I mean, you see Gary get in them and Strickler. They're fast. He seems to have one that's a little quicker than the others. I don't know if it's just stuff goes that way for him that weekend or what, but there's one car that he's won a ton of money with. I don't know what he's got going on. I know they're doing the cam over stuff. I accidentally tried it last year. Didn't think I was going to. Went through the shop making sure it wasn't going to cam over, and sure enough, first lap of hot laps just locked smooth. I didn't like it. They had traction, but I couldn't turn. So I don't know how they've got it where they've got the best of both worlds there, but
Because he still rotates. Like you watch him rotate at Vado. Like when he comes to enter, he beats everyone through turn three. It's like he gets
yeah,
into turn three so well. Comes off of four, hugging the bottom, and just lap after lap after lap. I mean, he won
He's
what
won
60
everything.
grand there in
Oh,
that
yeah.
car the last 3 years. The fall
something like
race.
that.
It's like 20,000, and then he
Well, then he
won.
won 100,000. Then he won 100,000 at Fountain City. I mean, I bet he's cleared I bet he's cleared a couple 100,000 in just that race car alone.
Yeah,
I mean,
I think
that's
probably on track there.
yeah.
And it
I know he
follows
won a
me.
USMTS show in it one weekend too. That was 5 grand, I think, down at Arclitex.
Oh,
Hmm.
that's the one that Jim ran second to him in. Remember that was like one of his newer. I remember that.
Yeah, that was
Yeah, because
that
Jim had
was.
a good show and he came from like ninth that night and ended up
Mm,
second. I thought he was gonna get to Cade and pass him, but ran out of laps. But no, Cade between Cade, Jim, Jake. There's three guys and Brandon David. I mean, there's a handful of guys that are like really a step ahead of the rest.
mhm,
There's stuff. It's just and it's fun racing them with them, but it's hard because it's like they're just so good. Like not only just driving, but their cars are set up so well
mhm,
and are so balanced. It's just like it seems like you have to be perfect just to run with them or to keep up. And then you make one mistake and there's 2 car lengths. And the next lap it's 3 car lengths. And before you know it, you're straight away behind. But that's kind of the fun though, too, in the sense is like the chase. And then when you do run with them or pass them, it's like, damn, you got a good hot rod. So there's pros and cons to it, but it definitely helps racing with those guys.
mhm.
Uh,
So
well, go ahead, Betty.
I got nothing. I thought you were
Oh,
gonna
Oh,
sorry. USMTS tour this year. You're racing that full time. That's planned, correct?
Yep, that's the plan currently. So
Is there a race you are looking forward to more than any others on the tour? Is there somewhere you're looking forward to going maybe that you haven't been?
honestly, I'm looking forward to going to Tri-State at the end of the year. I know I race there all the time, but they got a 20,000 to win show there, and I I'm looking forward to that one. Deer Creek, MTS, Cedar Lake, all of those tracks up north that I've been to and watched races at, but haven't actually got to race at. Looking forward to those.
Are you
Uh,
going to Ogilvy for that big XR deal?
yep, yep. Looking forward to that one because I think we're there the week before with USMTS. So hopefully we show up and have a half decent piece and aren't chasing our tails the rest of the week.
Have you ever raced at Ogilvy?
No, I think farthest north I've been maybe I-35 in Winston, Missouri. I've been south that ways, but as far as heading north, I haven't been that far yet. So
Last
Yeah,
it'll
you
time
be
I
got some
went,
good tracks to look forward to for sure.
I know what Jack's about to say.
last time,
I-35 was a shit show the last time we.
oh yeah. So last time I went to I-35, um, so there was a viral video of me. I got I don't remember if it was at the Jamboree or I stubbed a race car. I broke a J bar, spun out. Every single
all
race
the way
car.
from back 40
Okay,
driving.
yeah.
Yep.
He knows
You
exactly.
and 300, 500,000 other people saw that video. Anyways,
I saw it live. If it makes you feel any better.
yeah, that was bad. That was really bad. Anyways, so that happened. We took it, put a stub on the car, whatever, had the car down to bare frame, and we put it back together. For no, I don't remember. It must have been before that or something. But we stubbed a race car. Anyways, we're putting the car back together. First night out, Deer Creek rains out. We spent all this time busting ass to get this car back together. So I had the great idea. Let's go to Winston. Well, yeah, we went down there.
Not a good idea.
Car was so off. Couldn't get the thing to turn. Tighter than hell. Well, anyways, I got into this guy in the heat race. Went into the corner, shoved the nose. I got into his left rear. Gave him a left rear flat. I ended up pulling off in the heat because I couldn't turn the thing. Anyways, this guy, I won't mention his name, but this guy comes over to me and he's like, when I say ready to fight, I mean like, not like, hey man, fuck you, like, let's go, like, I'll take you right here in the cornfield. And I'm like, Corbin was with me, and I'm just like, this is not the place I want to get into a fight. Someone's gonna come with a jack handle up and hit me over the head. So, anyways, we had that altercation with this guy and got through that, went and ran the B, made the feature, whatever. Feature sucked. But in that 6, 8 hours we were there, I think I saw, Corb, how many fights do you think we saw that night? Four? Five?
4 or 5. There was cops were there on 2 different occasions.
Yeah, state troopers were there twice.
People chasing
It's
through the pits in high gear. I
Yeah,
mean,
we
it was a
watched.
shit show.
It's the only time I've watched two race cars, Dukes of Hazzard, off of turn three, chase each other through the pits. I watched two crew guys spear each other. I watched people at the scales literally fist fighting. There was a tech official on the ground. His earphones got knocked off. All I know is I-35 Speedway, badass racetrack. Other than that, pretty hillbilly. That's all I'll say.
I'm trying to find pictures of my stuff because I got into it with a guy there, like put into the back straightaway wall twice in the same feature. We have a red flag for like 45 minutes. It's 85, 90 degrees and humid. All the other guys are out of the car. This guy is strapped in, window net up. Like he knew he fucked up and would
Locked
not get
in.
out of the car. Even, I mean, Tyler Wolf looked at me and goes, "You know you fucked up when you won't get out of the car and it's this hot." Like,
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
cannot find it. Like it's just tire marks all down the side of it.
No. But you take the racing out of it. It's a fun
Extracurricular
racetrack.
activities.
I-35 actually races pretty good.
It
But
runs up. Is it? I can't. It
it
runs
runs
uphill
uphill
going
on the
back
back
stretch
stretch.
and downhill going down the front stretch. That is a weird feeling.
Yeah.
But no, yeah, I guess we've taken up about an hour of your
An
time, man.
hour,
You
yeah.
you guys got anything else for him? Um, I guess Trevor, how can people get a hold of you? Hughes Racing Chassis, just anything you got for anybody before we leave?
I mean, yeah, you can find me on Facebook or just give us a call at the shop. 918-422-4007. If you need anything there, message me on Facebook. I pretty well try to keep up with it. I'm a little bad on the Hughes page. I miss some messages here and there just because it's hard to keep up and I don't get notifications from it. But that's about it. I'm not on other social media much, so
Awesome.
Keep
Well,
it
hey man,
simple.
we appreciate your time. It was good to hear from you. I haven't talked to you in quite
absolutely.
some time, but maybe we'll look forward to seeing you when you come up here this summer. Guys, Hughes Race Chassis, give Trevor a call. Go buy yourself a race car from Trevor and the boys down there in Oklahoma. And yeah, thanks for joining us. Have a good night, man.
Yep. Thank you. You too.